Well, I'm actually the third generation that has served in the fire department for the town of Smyrna. My grandfather served as the first official fire chief for the town, and my dad served on the city council as well as a volunteer with the fire department. So on nights of council meetings, at times, I would get to go to the council meetings with him. And while they were holding their meetings, I'd go out and stand around and look at the fire apparatus that were in the stations. And I can remember they just looked so large and huge, and I'd stare at the pump panels and try to figure out how they would work. One thing that sets aside to me is we were raised in the Smyrna United Methodist Church over here on Sam Hager. And years ago, before we had pagers and walkie-talkies, we had an air raid siren. And it sat on top of the building. And it would ring for 2.5 minutes if a fire call came in. And of course, when the siren went off, you could hear it all over Smyrna, because at that time, Smyrna wasn't spread out like it is today. Right. But I can recall being in church. It didn't happen often, but I can remember sitting with my family and that air raid siren going off, and you'd see Mr. Johnny Hager Jr., or you'd see my dad or a couple of other men in the church get up and walk out. And I always wondered what they were doing and where they were going. The fire department was entirely volunteer, nothing but volunteer, until 1989. And they hired me as their first full-time firefighter. And prior to that, like I said, it was all volunteer. We gradually, slowly grew enough that we could open our Station 3 that was out by the Nissan plant. Was the second place that we opened full time. Again, just one person, just to bring the truck to the scene. And we were still very dependent upon volunteers to come and help do the extinguishment. But today we operate out of 5 different stations, manned 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, have a wonderful crew, dedicated, loyal people. First truck that the town of Smyrna ever had was built by Mr. John Hager Sr., and just right down the road here on Front Street in his shop. Mr. Hager took his family automobile, which was a 1913 Studebaker, and he took the bed off of it and put a tongue and groove wood tank on it. And then when they would drive it to a fire, it had a pump connected to it where they would lift the front wheel, the front bumper up, connect a belt to it. And if I'm not mistaken, if I read correctly, it only had 60 feet of hose that would operate it, that it would send pressure of water through. At the time, it was an asset, because the town of Smyrna didn't have a water system. And so Mr. John Hager Sr. knew that we had to have some way to move water to a burn. And by taking his family automobile and converting that worked. It wasn't the best, I'm sure, but we had nothing else. Well, the first one that was purchased was a 1924 T model. If I'm correct, I think the town had to borrow $990 to purchase that vehicle. It also didn't have a water tank on it. Again, we didn't have a water system here in the town at the time it was purchased, so it had soda acid tanks on it. when we were all volunteers and the tone went off, you really didn't know who was available, who was at work, or what would happen. And today, when you hear the tones, and in just seconds you hear a truck going en route, that's a good feeling. I personally would like to see them stay in the stations and not have the calls, but to hear that and to know that the type people we have on those trucks that are going to serve the citizens is a great feeling. I enjoy taking pictures. I'm not a photographer, but I take pictures. I enjoy old pictures. If you were sitting there and you had an old picture in your hand that I thought I'd like to have, I'd either ask you for it or I'd ask you for a copy of it. I do. I just love old pictures. I love old pictures of Smyrna. I love old pictures of the people of Smyrna, the people I grew up with and saw grow up. I mean, I was very fortunate. You take the Hager family, or the Victory family, or the Ridleys. I've seen the Lees, numerous generations of them. So I mean, I feel fortunate enough to have been raised here. But again, I am, like I said, I don't go anywhere without a camera. No, I don't. I don't go anywhere without a camera. My kids make fun, my children make fun of me about it, but I tell them that today I do that so I can remember what I did today. You see Mr. Doss O'Neill Sr., you see my grandfather in the over the hood of the fire apparatus in front of the bay was you see a picture, Dr. Ship, and you see Mr. Edmondson, Mr. Maddox. No, sir, I don't. I'm very fortunate. I feel like I'm very fortunate to serve in this capacity and to have been allowed to serve in this capacity. This is a wonderful community. I was raised here. I've never been anywhere else. I guess if there's anything you want to know about me is, I love my God, and I love my family, and I love my community.